5, 4, 3, 2, 1. CTS,
CTS
pop culture. I'm not gonna
Hi,
say
everyone.
anything
Welcome to the
predictable.
podcast. Okay, so this week, Henry and I had a very special chance to go see Thor
Not
Love and
that
Thunder.
special. It was just a
It's
normal,
super special.
normal
They rolled out the
screening
red carpet for us.
Friday.
Henry was acting like an absolute fool during the whole showtime.
That's
by the way.
not
Just
true.
acting like a hooligan.
We are very quick to complain about theater etiquette and stuff like that. Unfortunately, this time Jace was the one
Henry's mad
that
because I
was
was laughing. That's why he's mad,
Just-
because I found the movie funny.
way too hard. Laughing way too hard.
I found the movie funny, and he's mauling at it. So that's fine. It's fine. I guess I won't laugh the next movie we go to.
Okay. Let's start out with maybe spoiler-free review. So if there's people listening that haven't watched it, they can listen to this and then skip the rest.
So I loved it. I think it's one of my favorite movies of the year. And people who were complaining about it, they were out in strides for this movie.
A lot of people complaining about it. I think more than I've seen for any other movie. And it just seems to keep ramping up with the Marvel movies, right? Like, regardless of the quality of the movie, every single one, there's more people hating on it.
Well, Star Wars too at this point with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I think it's just a culture of those get amplified so much by social media and stuff. Because these movies will make $1 billion, and you're certainly not. We're not seeing the opinions of all the people that watched it to make it $1 billion. But yeah, no, it was kind of crazy that how many people absolutely hate it. Because I'm with you. I really liked the movie. I thought it was
the funniest Marvel movie I've seen.
It was really fun, and also the creepiest.
Yeah.
Gore,
is
Christian Bale's
crazy.
gore was there were some spots that I was legitimately whoa, that's
Henry was trying to hold my hand during the film. I didn't
that's
let him.
true.
I didn't let him.
He freaked out a little bit, but Gore was I really liked as a villain. I thought he was a really good villain. Kind of in the same vein of the Killmonger type villain, or even Thanos, where it's, hey, they kind of have a point. Maybe they shouldn't go kill every god, but they've kind of got a point. So, yeah, I think that's kind of been the blueprint for what are good Marvel villains, the Marvel villains that people like. But yeah, no, it was really good. It was fun. I liked the way it developed the characters, the kind of going forward, where Thor's at. Yeah, so.
Like I said, it was one of my favorite movies of the year. I only had 2 criticisms. I would have liked to have seen Gore for longer on screen. And then I wish Zeus was more powerful. I don't think we saw the full extent of his power, but he is the god of gods.
See, and I hear your complaint there. That was a super mythologically accurate portrayal of Zeus. In Greek myths, that's what Zeus is is a little bit of a bumbling womanizer type character. Is exactly that portrayal.
Oh, I don't have a problem with the personality of Zeus, but Zeus is the most revered. He's the god of gods. He was the god of gods in Rome, and he was the most powerful. I'm trying to think of some of the things he did in Roman mythology or whatever. Greek,
yeah.
Sorry. Who's Roman? Roman's
Jupiter.
Jupiter and all those.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I've had my opinion swayed by God of War a little bit, because Zeus in God of War is the craziest,
most powerful.
So powerful, and he's thunder's just raining down from the sky, and he's got these crazy weapons.
And my issue with, I don't know, I feel like that's in line a little bit though with the with kind of the message of the movie, where it's like the gods are all kind of these frivolous, like they don't really care, like
they're hiding away in this city.
right.
Oh, we're doing a spoiler-free review. We gotta be careful.
Spoiler free. But Zeus has been in the way he's acted is in the
Trailer
and stuff. So, and like that's a complaint a lot of people are having. I've seen a lot of people taking the Zeus from Zack Snyder's Justice League and putting it like side by side with this Zeus and being like, see, this is how Zeus should be. But it's also just like the Zeus from Zack Snyder's Justice League is the Leonidas from Zack Snyder's 300.
Yeah.
Like it's Gladiator, maybe? Is it Gladiator or 300?
The 300 is like all the Spartan warriors.
Yeah, it's the Gladiator, I think.
300 is this is Sparta.
Yeah. I just couldn't remember which one Zack Snyder directed. But yeah, no. And that feels like a ridiculous criticism to me. Like you can't have different interpretations of the character that are like in totally different places is not a very valid criticism in my opinion.
Yeah, I could certainly see that. I don't necessarily disagree. I think it would have been cool if he wasn't like railed quite as hard.
And we can
But I think that's kind of real quick. That's kind of in line with sort of how they made Odin too, right? In Thor, like Odin, if in like Norse mythology, is insanely powerful. I mean, just picture Thor times, however many is what Odin is. And so like, I don't know, I guess in some sense it's sort of similar, but I mean, even if you're going to make that argument, it's like, well, Thor has to be way more powerful because Thor would kill, like they have to nerf these characters, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, when you start working with like gods, like mythological gods, you have to do some power scaling because if you couldn't have enemies, like
yeah, and that's what was cool about Wanda in Doctor Strange is it feels like they didn't nerf her. It felt like she was like, oh my gosh, she's quite literally unstoppable.
Yeah, so.
And that's how these major gods would be. Sorry, I'm done interrupting.
No. We can also talk a little bit more about that stuff if we want to move into like a more spoiler review. So we'll just cut here and.
Are you actually gonna cut, or
no,
is it
I'm
just?
Not actually gonna cut. That was just me doing this. So stop watching if you haven't seen the movie. Let's talk about some spoiler stuff. Jace thought the stupid goats were the funniest thing in the entire movie. There are these two goats that Thor gets as a gift for saving this planet that like are screaming. They're kind of not that funny. That's one of the things I didn't love them. I was like,
I thought they were
this is
so
really
funny.
Dumb. We were sitting in the theater and they're riding through the air and they crash. There's like, you see this planet approaching and it's like, oh man, it's this giant planet or whatever. It's like forced perspective. It's actually like a small planet and the goats just crash straight into it. And Jace just bursts out laughing. I'm like, dude, like, stop talking, shut up. And he goes, just in the most audible voice I've ever heard, not even like trying to be quiet. He goes, they got smashed.
No, I thought they got crushed because I did. And the thing is, Henry didn't find it funny.
Very
but
loud.
If you were in the theater and you heard the people sitting next to us, every single time I laughed and every single word that came out of my mouth, they were just rolling around in their seats. Even in the previews, there was this movie called Stranger World, Disney movie. And at the end of the preview, I go, that was strange. And just this guy very, quietly but audibly just chuckles.
I'm gonna put a poll in the comments of this YouTube video on whether we think that when we go to the movie theater, we want a stand-up comedy show from some random person.
Me laughing? Sorry.
The laughing?
Sorry.
Fine. It was a little bit much, but the like jokes to the entire theater.
One joke.
You've told like 3 in this time
during the movie. I don't mind making jokes during the previews.
Yeah. Okay. But so there was that.
Henry's just so cultured. With the theaters.
Gore was really cool. I'm a sucker for
Death,
like
destruction.
when we start out with like from the villain's point of view and like get the backstory at the start of a movie. I like that premise, the setup where we start out and we see Gore's daughter die, and he like runs into, she dies because there's no water, they're in a desert, and then we run into like his god that he worships, and he's like, oh my gosh, thank you, like we must have, like, we've suffered so much, we must have this kind of eternal reward. And then the god's like, huh, like I don't care, and he like goes to kill Gore, and then Gore just kind of goes to town and starts off. I don't know, did you like how they introduced him, or
Yeah, I just wish we could have seen more of him. I think it would have been cool to see sort of. I don't know. I guess I just felt like we saw a lot of character development for a character we only saw for like 25 minutes on screen, which is fine. I don't know. It definitely felt. See, I was gonna say it definitely felt like he was the villain, but on that same sense, it's like, yeah, he was the villain, but this was definitely Thor and Lady Thor's movie. So it felt like it was their movie, and we saw a lot of them, which I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't have a problem with
it was
that.
very much like Killmonger, right? Where you get to the end and you're like, were they really a villain? Like, they did bad things, but maybe for the right reasons, type thing.
Yeah, and he redeems himself
and
at
even
the end.
and even the heroes kind of like recognize that like Thor was like, and Jane Foster were like, hey, like, don't kill all the gods, but we kind of get, like, I see the problem. Like, they kind of recognize the issue that they're having and want to fix it in the future.
Yeah, it felt like a Ragnarok movie, but a little bit more crazy, which I liked. I thought it was
Yeah.
fun. And I think that's where they kind of need to go with Thor, because I feel like based on the first two movies, it's a little bit difficult to make Thor a
What's
Captain America type hero.
One, mythology is inherently so ridiculous. Like, right? Because the goats, like, I didn't like them, but they're straight out of mythology. Like, Thor has his two goats that, like, he travels with. Like, that's kind of crazy. That's something that's, and so it's very hard to have this grounded, stoic superhero that they tried to do with Thor in kind of the first, like the Kenneth Branagh one, and then I've seen some revisions of people's previous opinions where people are like, since Thor 2 we haven't seen like a good Thor. Thor 2 I think should be almost undisputed considered the worst Marvel movie ever put out. And I don't like that people are changing their opinions on that.
Yeah, that's I'm the same way. It's, if not the worst, it's certainly down there. Yeah, that one's down there for sure. I'm like trying to think of another one where I was like, ugh, but I think that one kind of takes the cake.
And people are just so, it's because no one disputed that before this one came out, and now apparently that's what they want from Thor. Is like how he was in Thor 2.
Well, and it's like I said, like if they don't nerf him, then Thor is the by far like mythologically, he's the strongest Avenger of all of them by a mile.
And it's not even about
he's a god.
Nerfing him. It's about him being just like this. He's not a fun character. Like he's just this like weird, sad all the time, like stoic, like kind of stone-faced monolith almost that doesn't really like have character development or anything. I mean, Thor, I don't think, like, he didn't change in the first two Thor movies really, and certainly not as much as like you've seen him like grow as a character between like Ragnarok and this one.
Yeah, I do think it was kind of dumb what they did with him in Endgame, and I think it kind of speaks to, what am I trying to say? I guess I can see where people are confused on Thor's character, because it seems like based on the first two movies, we get a completely different Thor than we get in Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, and Endgame is a completely different Thor than we get in the other
Yeah.
two. So it's a little bit. I think Thor is one of the only Marvel characters that they've kind of messed up. But Taika in the last two movies, or last two just solo Thor movies, they've kind of redeemed him.
And I think they only messed up in the sense that they had to make that switch to save the character, because I think he was a bad character in the first, even in like the first Avengers movie.
Oh, I agree. But I guess the confusing part is they made the switch and I was like, okay, I like this. And then they switched it back for Endgame. Not back, but they switched it to another route. And then he redeems himself. I guess it's just a little. I guess I just, at the end of the day, I wish that Thor wouldn't have been this fat character.
That was a little weird.
They made him like a joke. Like, if you're gonna make him, sort of just this sad, depressed character, have him like, I'm not a writer, but have him go sit on some desolate planet out in outer space and just sit there and contemplate, or have him be in a depression state. Don't have him playing Fortnite with like this giant chip belly, and I don't know. I found that a little bit scuffy, and I don't think they were setting it up for Thor Love and Thunder. But Taika saved it with Thor Love and Thunder with this really cool opening sequence
where he's like training and stuff with the Guardians. It was fun to see him with the Guardians, like interacting. Like I've always liked that. Like I liked that because what is that in Infinity War? Is it in Infinity War that they kind of are interacting a lot? Yeah, it must be, because they all get dusted in Endgame besides Thor.
Yep.
Yep. That's a fun relationship. I think we'll get to see maybe more of that in
the New Guardians.
The New Guardians, which I think comes out.
Do you like the Guardians of the Galaxy? Do you like those movies?
I like the first one a lot.
Yeah, the second one wasn't as good.
I do think it set up a lot of cool stuff in the second one that was a little bit like bigger scale, that felt like escalation.
There was like this theory about something they're going to do with the raccoon. What's the raccoon's name? Rocket.
I don't know.
Yes, you do. There's like a character that turns animals alive or mutates them, and
I don't know. Because there's the one that
this theory popped up after like a recent episode of something or a recent movie, and they were like, oh, they're setting up.
So there was in the comics, like where Wanda comes from like this like Mount Wundagore or something, and there's this doctor or something that makes these like animal hybrids and stuff, but I feel like
that might have been it.
I feel like that's a pretty tenuous. I don't know if I ever like bought into like that's where they were going with it.
Oh, okay.
But I do like the whole Adam Warlock thing is cool. I just think I like that Marvel, like kind of the more cosmic, like bigger scale stuff, because I don't love the where it's in everything is happening on Earth. Earth's just getting attacked over and over again by all these things feels not realistic. That if we've already established that there's this universe with these billions or trillions of other people, races, species, like other like super powered kind of groups, how come everything ends up on Earth? And like I get you have to have some stuff on Earth, but I liked Guardians for going kind of outside of that.
Well, and that's funny because I actually think I prefer movies that are more Marvel movies that are more grounded, like Iron Man stories, or like fighting amongst humans, and I actually really like those stories.
And I like that, like kind of the more like street level stuff like that. What I don't like is, oh man, like, okay, Thanos is coming to attack Earth. All right, like Galactus is coming to attack Earth. Oh, the like Watcher's coming to attack Earth. It's like, why Earth? What did Earth do to get like all these guys so mad? Where it makes it more difficult for me to like kind of suspend my disbelief and go, okay, I guess it makes sense that they're gonna like Earth's kind of the focal point of the entire universe, but that doesn't feel, especially now that we've seen like, okay, there's like this hall of gods that they all hang out in, like There seems like much bigger places that a big bad would attack before they attacked some puny little planet in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I think it will be interesting. I hope that whoever the next new big bad is, I hope they give him the same sort of ominous and destructive figure they gave Gore. Because can you imagine if Gore was like the big bad and he's this god butcher and he has a goal to kill all gods, but even he wants to go beyond that and like New World Order. I hope that Kang has that, or whoever it is, has that same sort of. I hope he has the Thanos effect, right? Because Thanos is he is the ultimate big bad. We can see where,
like, he was in the post-credit scene in like Avengers, and then we didn't see him for another like couple years and kind of that stuff. Yeah, I know. I think Kang will be cool, and I don't know if he's going to be the next big bad. I feel like they might do like a little kind of short reset where this like phase 4 is kind of a small big bad, I guess. And that concludes, and then they like kick off with a restart with like X-Men, Fantastic Four, and all that stuff into something, a bigger storyline. Because I mean, Doctor Doom would be a cool one to have be the big, and that keeps you a little bit more like, oh, he's on Earth, he's from Earth. We're not fighting some weird cosmic entity that there's no reason they should be singling out Earth out of any other planet. Like, there's a little bit of a connection, but he still has the potential to be this like ultra powerful villain that could be just as menacing as any kind of cosmic entity.
Yeah. Who do you think makes up the cast of the next Avengers? Like the big ones.
So, I mean, like Sam Wilson, like Winter Soldier, I bet Captain Marvel, Thor probably.
So you think they're going to be sticking to more of these, sort of characters we've seen before? It's not going to be...
Well, a lot of the ones we're seeing recently are, I mean, Shang-Chi will be in there, I think. But a lot of the ones we're seeing now, I think we might get a separate, like, Young Avengers, right? That we're getting in a lot of the shows and stuff. Where, I mean, like, the Miss Marvel, the, like, Kate Bishop from Hawkeye, what other one?
America Sanchez.
Like America Chavez.
That's bad. Sorry.
Even, what's her name? I'm blanking on it now. Shoot. From, no. Like, yeah, Miss Marvel. I'm trying to think of who is in. So from Doctor Strange.
What about the girl from Black Widow, her younger sister?
Yeah, she could. So I think they're setting up Thunderbolts, it's called, where it's kind of like, it's almost like the Suicide Squad, a little like the Suicide Squad of Marvel, where it's kind of these like almost anti-hero type, where they're working for the government and kind of doing the government's dirty work and stuff. And that's where there was like that like Contessa Valentino de Fontaine or whatever her name was, that kind of recruited John Walker, recruited Yelena. So I think they could go in like 3 separate directions, where they have a Young Avengers, they have a main Avengers, they have a Thunderbolts, and then they probably go 4th where there's like a cosmic group that is off doing like with Guardians and maybe Thor and people and like the Eternals and stuff like that.
Dude, can you imagine the pushback we're going to see on Taika's Star Wars movie after it comes out?
Yeah.
Because this movie, Love and Thunder, you can see Taika Waititi's like directing in it, and I don't see how you can have a director with his unique, sort of directing style go to a Star Wars movie and not have Star Wars fans just lose their minds.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see because,
Unless you make it non-canon. If you make it non-canon, I don't
well,
think they care.
I think you could make it canon and just place it somewhere totally unconnected. Like it can be canon and not connected to anything, really. Because I think the intention was it was going to be like an Old Republic Star Wars movie. But I also think he can change. Like I mean, he's done other movies that do have the
Even
comedy
Jojo
and
Rabbit though, right?
There is some comedy, but I even think he could like tone that down. There's stuff that he does that, because even like Hunt for the Wilder People has comedy, but isn't like over the top comedy like Thor. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Did you see people getting mad about him? Like he was like, he was totally joking, 100% joking, but he was like, oh yeah, I was talking to like Natalie Portman and was like, hey, like if you ever wanted to be in a Star Wars movie, like,
yeah.
And people were flipping out about him saying that. For one, he was joking. Like he knows, like he's seen the Star Wars movies. He knows Natalie Portman was in them. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if that even happens. But yep, we do a lot of complaining about other people complaining.
Yeah, it almost makes us
on this podcast.
Yeah, it'd be cool to see Kevin Feige produce a Star Wars movie.
But people are gonna complain about that because Michael Waldron, the dude that wrote Doctor Strange, is supposed to be his writer for it.
So and we've talked about this before on the podcast, and I know this is something that we disagree on, but I am of the opinion that you can't have a Marvel-like sequence of movies that all come together to face a big bad. I don't think you can do that in the same way, or at least not as easily as you can with Star Wars. So it does make me a little bit nervous. Do I think Kevin Feige is going to do that? I don't think so, but I think that's what he's best at, is creating these timelines where everything seems to come into place together and placing certain things here and there that all connect. It's like little puzzle pieces that eventually form this beautiful picture. But I think that is a lot harder with Star Wars because we're watching to see the character's journey. We're not necessarily watching to see like a big bad get taken down by all of these characters.
Well, and the Kevin Feige Star Wars is like confirmed a solo movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I don't think it'll be that, but I don't know. I do think they're building up to that with like Thrawn. Like the Thrawn kind of storyline is apparently kind of where it's going, is maybe not quite the kind of 10-year arc like a Thanos, like Marvel Thanos thing, but it is going to like bring in from other stories and stuff, like with the new Ahsoka series.
Yeah, where it makes sense, but I'm saying, like, I don't think you can ever have a Star Wars moment like we saw in Endgame, where you have all of these superheroes and they're all fighting alongside each other against this big bad. I think that you could incorporate certain characters into like other series, but I don't see how it would make sense. For example, Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, Cal Kestis, The Mandalorian, Boba Fett, like all of these characters fighting alongside Ezra. To me, that doesn't make sense, but
yeah, I think they'll bring a lot of them in on this Thrawn storyline, because I bet Thrawn's not a bad guy anymore when they bring him back. Or at the very least, him and Ezra are like sympathetic to each other.
I'd love to see
about something. It's gonna happen. Because they cast Ezra.
Yeah, I know. I want to know who they cast as Thrawn.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Well, and there's rumors that they're working on a Cal Kestis show too, which would be
There's rumors that they're working on so many shows.
I know, but Cal Kestis makes sense because they have. Oh, did you see the Jedi Fallen Order trailer by chance? Jedi Fallen Order 2 trailer.
It's what's it called? Like I can't remember what it's
something
called.
Like Jedi Survivor. It's something.
Survivor. That's what
Survivor.
it is, I think. Yeah.
So there's a lot of theories around who this voice is, because there's this voice in the beginning, and what we think is like either the Grand Inquisitor or it's just a Powan. But then there's another voice, and the voice sounds ominously similar to Darth Maul's voice, which
That'd
would be
cool.
crazy if Darth Maul was the bad guy in this. And
that'd be really
because
cool.
during Cal's time here, Darth Maul is the head of Crimson Dawn.
Well, because
Crimson Dawn or Crimson Sun?
Crimson Dawn. Because Jedi Fallen Order Survivor takes place at the same time as the Obi-Wan series in the timeline. So I saw somebody talking about like, hey, that kind of makes sense as a timeline, because when we see Maul in Rebels, he's not the head of this like Crimson Dawn. He's kind of fallen. Like, what if whatever happens in Survivor?
Well, and I heard, to go even further than this, I heard rumors that it's going to be Darth Vader that like removes Maul from this organization, and there'll be a fight between Maul and Darth Vader.
That'd be cool. Like, that you just get to watch. Like, I'd be stoked with the Maul versus Vader cinematic.
Oh, for sure.
That'd be cool.
I know you haven't played the game, but there's a really cool, one of the final, you've probably seen it, one of the final scenes in Fallen Order. Cal's pretty much his Jedi master, runs at Darth Vader with the Inquisitor's lightsaber, and Darth Vader just goes and just throws her into the lava, just instantly, just
gone.
Like without even moving. His hand just stays there, and he just barely lifts his hand and just throws her off. And which is cool, because it's like, that's how strong Darth Vader was.
Yeah.
And we don't quite, they nerf him in a lot of scenarios. But
the one thing, though, like, that's one thing I feel like a lot of people agree on, is that since Disney's taken over Star Wars, they've been good with Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Like, the hallway scene in
That
Rogue
scene was
One.
nuts.
In Obi-Wan, right? Like, when he walks in there and grabs that ship and pulls it down and rips the wall off.
Or when he grabs Reva, right? Is her name?
Yeah.
He just grabs her.
He's like, yeah, he like disarms her and like gets her lightsaber, and then just like pulls it apart and tosses her one. She's like, I want to fight you with a lightsaber. Cool. Pretty sick. But yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. We're getting closer on stuff. I know there's for Star Wars, Andor's our next one that comes out end of August. We do have, for Marvel, there's a panel at some comic convention next week that people are expecting some big announcements to come out from. So we'll have to see on that.
Sweet.
Okay, let's call it.
Let's wrap it up. This is the CTS Pop Culture Podcast, episode